Well, we are just 1 week away from the election. We've been counting down, and millions of campaign cash have already come in. And we're not talking, though, about the presidential race this time. We're talking about Chicago's first school board election.
Yeah, and joining us now to give us some insight is Gery Chico, who has held many hats, including president of the Chicago Board of Education. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to be with you.
So we know we've got a politically charged school board race. Who stands out to you, and what are the big issues that you think needs to be tackled in your mind? What do you think?
Well, first of all, this is historic in the sense that we have not had an elected school board in Chicago's Board of Education history. It was previous to this mayoral control. So now we have a first time. We're going to start with a hybrid board of 10 elected and 11 appointed people by the mayor. And this is going to be a big departure from the way the Chicago Public Schools did business in the past. We have some very exciting candidates who are on the ballot. Those races are taking place throughout the city. I voted already, and it was exciting to see that little spot on the ballot, Chicago School Board election. And I'm hoping for good things from people who are going to be elected now. And God only knows we need it. We're in a bind over here at CPS right now. There's a lot of turmoil going on. There are people that vowed to fire Pedro Martinez, who I think is doing a good job. There are people want the CPS to take on hundreds of millions of more in debt when they're already underwater. So, I mean, we really need to get these elected people there quickly so that they can bring a voice of reason to the debate happening at Chicago Public Schools. Because look, let's face it, the Chicago Public Schools, its health is part and parcel with the city's. And the city needs a strong school system. And once we start to eliminate choice for parents, close down programs, that's not good for our parents. And so I really would like to see stability and reasonable thinking brought to the Chicago Public Schools as soon as possible.
You just mentioned the debt. We're talking about a $500 million deficit, so lots to tackle for this board. What's your advice for voters who, like you said, are looking at that new section on their ballot and wondering, okay, what am I picking for here? You know, what's at stake?
Well, I would advise all voters to educate themselves on who these candidates are. And then I would further, this is just my opinion, I would vote for those people who are not beholden to any particular agenda or ideology, but who are going to look at the situation, weigh the facts, and make the best decisions possible. And I think those candidates on the ballot are clear. There's a lot of people already on this ballot who have already vowed to vote a certain way on certain things. Well, I mean, that doesn't give you much choice. I mean, why even bother? So I think it's important that people educate themselves on the backgrounds of these individuals. And I personally am in favor of choice. I want parents to have choice as to where they send their children to school, whether it's selective enrollment, military academy, charter. I mean, these are things I worked hard to bring in back in the 90s, early 2000s, and they've really paid dividends because there's so many students that have done well in these schools. And why we would talk about closing them down or shifting the resources from those schools to other schools is just beyond my comprehension.
And so we want to ask you about the topic that got a lot of attention, a lot of questions, and that is your thoughts on the resignation of all of the mayor's hand-picked board members, apparently because they disagreed with the mayor. And some have called it a crisis, but we want to get your take on that. Is it a crisis? What are your thoughts?
I absolutely think it's a crisis. I've been around for a while, and I've never seen an entire board appointed by one mayor just walk out. That to me is a very troubling sign of a dysfunction in communication and coordination between City Hall and the Chicago Public Schools. And frankly, they need one another. We need a strong city to have a good school system. We need a good school system to have a strong city. So, I mean, to me, it's highly troubling. I think it is a crisis. And that's why I think this election is frankly a savior in a lot of ways, because it's going to bring people who are not beholden strictly to City Hall, who will weigh the facts, come up with solutions, and make best decisions possible, not follow an ideology or a directive or an order from City Hall.
Gery Chico, thank you so much for weighing in. There's so much more we could talk about with this, so let's stay in touch because more to come over the next week. We appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure to be with you.